Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Minimalist Podcast, where we discuss what it means to live a meaningful life with less. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn, and I am writing solo, at least just for this intro. Don't worry, Ryan will be here in a moment. I'm recording this in an Airbnb in Los Angeles, and if you hear some background noise, there's construction going on right outside the window or in the bedroom that I'm recording this in. So it's not the usual pristine sounds that you're used to, thanks to Podcast Sean, who keeps our podcast crystal clear most of the time. But I wanted to record this intro really quickly so we could get this podcast out to you on time. I'm really excited about this one. We recorded this live podcast in Pittsburgh. Let me talk about that real quick. We just finished up the first wave of the Less Is Now tour. Ryan and I were in Pittsburgh. That was the very first stop. And then from there, we went to Burlington, Vermont. That was our first time ever in Vermont. We had been to 48 other states, and that's our 49th state. Don't worry, Alaska. We'll make it to you eventually. We don't have it on the docket yet, but it's just beyond the horizon, I'm sure. And after Burlington, we were in Boston, and we finished up that first little wave in Portland, Maine. Four just great events. I don't want to overstate it because I enjoyed it so much. Ryan and I have been giving this in-depth talk about minimalism, and it's rare that you have 4 events that you feel outstanding about after the fact. It always happens that there'll be some sort of technical difficulty, or I'll mess up something in the speech, or the vibe just won't be working. But the crowds at every single one of these events have been engaging and engaged. Their questions have been wonderful, and so I just feel really grateful that we get the opportunity to speak in front of these folks and in front of all of you as well, but also to answer your questions. And thank you for continuing to give us engaging questions. If you do want to see us on the road, we're hitting the road some more. In fact, really soon, we're headed over to Spokane, Seattle, and Portland, Oregon. Those are the next 3 tour stops that we have. And then from there, we're going all over the country. We'll be in Grand Rapids, Madison, Chicago, Minneapolis, San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And then we'll be over in the Midwest again, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, and I think there's something like 25 other cities. And one cool thing that we're doing while we're on the road is our friend Matt D'Avella, who directed our documentary Minimalism, which is available worldwide now on Netflix, by the way. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, you certainly can. And if you want a deeper behind-the-scenes look, by the way, you can go to our YouTube channel. We just worked on this 6-part mini-series, this web series with Matt D'Avella called Making Minimalism. And it really shows you how we went from just having an idea of, wow, back in 2013, we want to create this documentary, to bringing that to fruition, taking a 3-year period and getting it out in theaters after filming it. How did we film it? Why did we film it? How did we get the interviews? What were some of our failures and some of our wins along the way? How do we get it out into theaters? How do we get it on iTunes and Netflix and make it available worldwide for all of you to see? And we just finished up the 6th episode of that. So it's a 6-part series. The 6th episode, it was just an interview with me and Ryan and Matt D'Avella. Matt has been on the road with us for this first wave of the tour, and he'll be on future waves as well because we're recording some stuff. I can't tell you what it's for just yet, but I'm really excited to be creating this new creation. That's all I'll leave it at for now about what we're creating, but I'm excited to get that out there to you. In the meantime, you can check out Making Minimalism over at our YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/The Minimalists. And if you want to see us on tour, you can find all 40-something cities that we're coming to this year, the cities, the dates, the details over at theminimalists.com, or you can just go to lessisnow.com. That'll take you over to our tour page. And a few of you had questions about the tickets. You go to the venue page or to buy a ticket, and there are 2 types of tickets. There's general admission, which gets you a ticket into the door, and you get to see the event just like everyone else. And there's also these VIP tickets, and many of you said, well, what's the difference? What if I buy this VIP ticket? What does that get me? Well, first off, VIP tickets are limited, so in many cities they're already sold out. But don't worry, if you can't get one, it's okay. But VIP ticket access gets you access to the first two rows, the first 2 rows of seats in the theater wherever we are. So you get the best seats in the house, basically. You also get to be first in line after the event. So during the event, Ryan and I give a talk, then we record a live podcast, and after that, we do this hug line, basically, where the hugs are obviously optional. They're also free and transferable, so you can pass them on. But we take photos, we sign books, and all that fun stuff as well. And if you have a VIP ticket, if you're a VIP ticket holder, then you get first access to that. You basically have your own individual line. But then we also will give you copies of all 3 of our books: Essential, Minimalism, Live a Meaningful Life, and Everything That Remains, as well as a copy of our documentary, Minimalism, if you want them. If you don't want them, obviously we're not going to force you to take a physical item. Of course, that's against our ethos. But whether you buy a copy of one of our books or we give you one because you have a VIP ticket, we always encourage people to minimize them after the fact anyway. So once you've gotten value from it, please pass it on to someone else who can get value from it. It's not going to do you any good just sitting on a shelf somewhere. And so you can pass it on to your local library or a friend or family member, just leave it on a coworker's desk or in a break room somewhere. Hopefully someone else will get value in that thing as opposed to just holding on to it. And by the way, if you're waiting to get your tickets, whether it's VIP or regular, I wouldn't wait. The Pittsburgh event that you're about to hear, it actually sold out. And strangely, it sold out the last day of the event. That is a rare occurrence. Usually when they sell out way in advance. For example, last year, we did 15 cities during the documentary tour, and I believe 14 of those ended up selling out, and they often sell out way in advance. So if you're one of those people like Ryan who waits till the last minute to get his tickets, then you may show up and find that there are no more tickets, at least in some cities. That will definitely be the case. Ryan and I have been bouncing all around this month. It's been a very focused month, not busy. We've said no to most things so we can say yes to the most important things. There was, in fact, a 24-hour period where we had set foot in all 4 time zones because we finished up that first wave of the tour, then we flew back home to Missoula, Montana for a night, and then we drove out to Pullman, Washington. Have any of you ever been to Pullman, Washington before? Neither had I, well, until last week. We got the opportunity to speak to this group of college kids, and we showed up thinking there would be a small group of college kids there, and then we were told, no, you're actually speaking in a theater that seats 500 people. But we showed up, and it was more like 750 or 800 people showed up. And unfortunately, I actually had to turn some people away. And I'm just really grateful. First off, I'm sorry if you didn't make it, if you didn't get a chance to make it in there. If you're one of those people who got turned away, we'll have to make it up to you next time. Had no idea that our message would resonate so much in Washington State University at Pullman, Washington. But it did. But I really feel privileged to have the opportunity to speak to the youth. It almost sounds cliche, but we're seeing more high school kids, we're seeing more college kids, more millennials showing up at our events. So we have everything from 11-year-olds to 90-year-olds who show up at our events. But I feel grateful that we get a chance to contribute to folks while they're young, so they don't have to make some of the same mistakes I made throughout my 20s pursuing the so-called American dream. Usually in our podcast, we record a added value segment toward the end of the podcast. Because we're doing these live events, we're not doing the added value segment at the very end. But I wanted to give you just a little bit of added value this week. I'm in Los Angeles right now. Oh, by the way, the reason I'm in Los Angeles is Ryan and I had a couple of really strong interviews, great conversations with some folks while we were here. As soon as we landed here in Los Angeles, we drove out to Topanga Canyon and met with Dr. Christopher Ryan. You might know him because he wrote a book called Sex at Dawn, and he has a great podcast called Tangentially Speaking. And the way he records it at his home in the canyon, sort of in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell phone service. And it's just out in nature. So when you listen to our conversation we had with him, we'll put a link to that in the show notes, by the way. If you listen to this conversation, you hear the birds chirping in the background. And I can just tell you, it's one of the best conversations that I've had in a long time. Whether or not there was a mic or not a mic in front of me, it just so happened that he mics us up for this. And then we just sit around and talk. In fact, it doesn't even feel like he's recording. It just feels like you're sitting around on a back porch having a conversation with a really smart friend. So I hope you check that out. While we were here, we also did a conversation with Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew. Of all people, I never thought we'd be on their show, and had a really strong conversation with them as well. I'm told that will be out this Friday. We'll put a link to at least their show in the show notes, and you can check that out this Friday. It was a short, maybe 20-minute conversation, maybe a little bit longer than that, and they were able to talk about the documentary. And the thing I like best is Adam Carolla shared the story about his kid opening something like 120 presents on Christmas and being overwhelmed and just feeling terrible. And he related that to consumerism. And it was a great story. I couldn't do it justice, so you'll have to go listen to that on your own when it comes out this Friday. Anyway, back to my added value segment. I'm here in Los Angeles. I went to the LACMA yesterday. I've been to the LACMA. It's the LA County Museum of Art, right? LACMA. And I've been there a bunch of times, but there's a new exhibit that just came out, I think within the last week or so. It's about 9/11, and it's a Saudi artist's interpretation of the post 9/11 times, the post 9/11 events, and it was evocative. I mean, it left me with certain feelings that I'm still trying to reconcile. But it also made me start asking some questions about those feelings. And I think that's what really great art does. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, you get a chance to check it out. The exhibit at the LACMA, it's just called Pause. And I'm not going to tell you why it's called Pause, but you'll figure it out pretty quickly after you visit it. I definitely encourage you to check it out if you happen to be in the Los Angeles area. All right, Sean, I think that's all I have for now. We'll move on to this live version of the Minimalists podcast in Pittsburgh. I know I really enjoyed this, and I hope you do too. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn.
And I am Ryan Nicodemus, and together we are the Minimalists.
And we are live in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Hello, Pittsburgh. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much. So we have a microphone set up here. Usually what we do is we take phone calls. But you don't need to call us right now because we're all here in the same room, right? And so if you're anywhere, even way in the back, you're welcome to come on up here, ask your questions. We'll get through as many as we can. We tend to pontificate a little bit. So you can come up here, ask your questions, and eventually we'll try to get to a lightning round as well. Someone has to break the ice.
Yeah, the microphone's right here in case you guys are looking for it.
There we go.
First question.
All right.
First of all, I just want to say thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Angie Gonzalez.
Nice to
meet you, Angie.
Thank you. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
Coming out.
So I'm a singer, and I have, over the years, accumulated a lot of stuff, a lot of wardrobe, accessories, shoes, wigs, makeup, you name it. And since I discovered you guys, I have eliminated about 90% of it all.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. However, in all of that, I have also discovered thrifting. And so I'm a little proud of myself, and I've kind of, allowed myself to buy things as I see them. Maybe if I'm looking for a specific item, I'll go to a thrift store first. So I'm minimizing my overall expense, but yet I'm, slowly, filling up that closet again. So
Right.
What kind of advice do you have for someone like me whose appearance is, important when it comes to career?
Yeah, so a few things. Thank you for your question, first off. A few things I'm going to recommend. First, you're going to want to figure out what your outcome is. So quite often we will go thrifting. We were just reading a stat earlier today. We had a little event before this. Did you know 93% of teenage women, teenage females, list shopping as their favorite pastime? Favorite pastime. And so the outcome in that is actually the shopping, whereas what you're talking about how can I shift that outcome so that it's to clothe myself and look good in the process, right? Your style is important to you, fashion can be important to you, but instead of the important thing being the act of shopping, you can turn the act of shopping into just the means to get to the actual outcome. And on top of that, a few sort of practical rules as well is you can find, I'm not encouraging you to wear a uniform, right? You don't have to have the black pants and the black shirt, but what you can do is you can say, what are my limitations? So has anyone here ever tried Project 333? Few people. That's awesome. So you can usually tell, by the way, who's done Project 333, and I'll tell you what it is here in a second, because they're often the best dressed people in the room. And so what Project 333 is our friend Courtney Carver, who Ryan mentioned earlier. She started it. You can just go to the website. It's project333.org. And basically, you pick 33 pieces of clothing that you want to wear over the course of 3 months. It seems a bit restrictive at first, and that includes everything. Shirts, pants, shoes. I guess it probably doesn't include underwear. But real minimalists don't wear underwear. I'm just kidding. Ryan and I share a pair of underwear.
Gross.
But what you can do is you set up these sort of boundaries for you, and they allow you to realize, like, wait a minute, these 33 pieces of clothes end up being my favorite clothes. You're going to pick your favorite things if you're limited to 33 items. And while that may seem a bit draconian at first, you can expand it beyond that if you want. You get to create your own rules, right? And you also mentioned that you have a family. You have kids?
My daughter's here with me.
Oh, nice. Okay. So I think the important thing to notice with your kids is they're watching you as well.
Yes.
And so whatever habits you have, they're going to pick up. And the good news, that's actually good news, because if you have good habits, especially around shopping, they often pick up those habits as well. Now they're going to pick up habits elsewhere, obviously,
right.
But the person they pick up their most habits from are going to be their parents, for sure.
Yeah, I think those boundaries are what are important for me, because, I am every day I'm like asking myself, like, okay, what have I had for a long time? I put usually probably like a 30 to 60 day time limit on it, but like sometimes I'll come across stuff, especially like the junk drawer. I still have one junk drawer. And it's important to have a junk drawer. Like I got just, there's all that random stuff. And what'll happen is, like, as it fills up, instead of coming up with a junk drawer number 2, I will clean that sucker out. And I'll tell you, like, I'll find stuff in there like that's a year old. I'm like, why did I even think I was gonna need this like little, extra third USB cable or whatever it may be. But that's how I stay on the best path that I can stay on, is constantly setting and sticking by those boundaries. There are other things that you can implement too. Like, so I've got this 30 rule where on either side, there's some seasonal stuff, right? Like my snowboard, I'm only gonna use a few months out of the year, so I wouldn't get rid of that. But for the majority of the stuff that I don't use and I haven't used in the last 30 days, and if I'm honest with myself, like, am I going to use this in the next 30 days? I can usually kind of filter stuff out that way pretty well. But it doesn't have to be 30-30 for you. You can do 90-90. That covers pretty much the whole year. Okay. Josh and I wrote about that on our website. The 20-20 rule, have you heard of that?
Yes. Okay,
so for those who haven't heard of it, essentially, well, let me tell you how Josh and I got to this 20-20 rule. So this was 2011. We were going on our first tour, where we'd show up and, like, we were lucky if it was 5 people or 6 people who came out to hang out with us at a coffee shop. I couldn't imagine now if we were just like, oh, just meet us at a coffee shop, and I don't know, maybe like the owner would be happy we got him a bunch of new customers or something. But we get to St. Pete Beach, Florida. That was the very first city. We thought it was a very kind of apropos place to start, because it's where Josh's mom was from, and kind of what really led him down the rabbit hole, which then led me down the rabbit hole. And we were only gone for maybe a week, 10 days, and just a few cities. And we open up the trunk, and I'm looking at a trunk like just full of like, duffel bags, a garment bag.
You never know when you're going to need that suit. What if you have like an impromptu funeral you have to go to?
Right, exactly. But that's really it though. It's like it was all these things, and I'm like, dude, no one can see our trunk, man. Like we are hypocrites. So Josh and I, we started talking about it, and it was all these just in case things. And at the end of the day, what we decided is we were like, okay, we are not going to hold on to anything just in case, because most of the just in case items we could replace within 20 minutes for less than $20. And it might sound ridiculous to some at first, because you're thinking like, am I gonna have to spend $20 every other week? I mean, that adds up. $20 that adds up, and it does. Like, don't get me wrong. But Josh and I, we've been using that rule since the beginning, so 6 years, and I can count on one hand how many times both of us have used it combined. And it's just really cheap insurance, because most of those just in case items, we really don't need them. Now, our theory is like this is a rule that works 99% of the time. I'm sure there is an exception to that rule, but for Josh and I, it has worked 100% of the time. So just implementing things like that, and it's, don't do it all at once. I mean, Josh and I didn't start doing everything at once. We just kind of would implement some rules, and then as we saw other areas that we needed or wanted to improve on, we would implement more rules and create those boundaries. So just keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being an awesome example for your daughter. That is so cool. How are you doing?
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks for coming here.
On her gaming collection next. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Howdy.
Hey guys, I'm Vincent.
Hey, nice to meet you, Vince.
I have two questions, that's okay.
Yeah.
First one is, when was the last time either one of you guys were in a mall?
I've been there.
So we live in Missoula, Montana now, and the largest mall in all of Montana is in Missoula, and large is really relative. I mean, it is technically a shopping mall, but man, I don't know. It's been a long time. I'll go there if I need to, but I know I can tell you a story. A few years ago, we were back in Cincinnati for a tour stop, and I had a cable on my phone like broke, and I needed to replace it. And so the closest place for me to go was into a mall. It was the Tri-County Mall in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I walked into this mall, and I remember not making it down to the end of the first hallway, and I just turned around and said, "Fuck this! I'm out of here." And I went somewhere else that was farther away, just because. And the irony of that is, Ryan and I used to manage a bunch of retail stores. So I was a director of operations for 150 retail stores. I spent most of my days in malls and going to different stores throughout Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. And now I can't even stand the sight of going into one, really.
The last time I was in a mall, we just went to Chicago for a speaking gig that we had, and like the hotel we were staying at, it was like right there on the Michigan Mile, and yeah, it is so overwhelming. I don't get like too antsy in the mall. Actually, it was really cold, so there were like the huge mall that's on the Michigan Mile. We would cut through to because we could stay indoors for like a block and a half or 2 blocks, going through all these stores. And I'll tell you, every time I walk through the mall, and I remember specifically on one of the routes, we go through Nordstrom's. And I remember like Nordstrom's being such a big deal to me, like when I was in the corporate world, and I would just like go there, and I always bought stuff that was on sale that was like always like a size off, but it was like a really nice name brand, and then like that would just like either I'd wear it and I'd look a little silly, or it would like sit in my closet with the price tag on it for a while until I finally had a packing party, got rid of all that stuff. But yeah, I remember too like going through Nordstrom's and not only remembering that manic feeling that I would get from going through the racks and looking at different products, but I also remember that feeling I got when I was checking out. And it was always this feeling of like, I don't have this money right now. I'm putting it on my credit card. I would make huge thousands of dollars worth of commission, and by the time I got that commission check, I had already spent it. And I just remember always just having that sinking feeling of going into more debt, and as I'm like in this tornado of a whirlwind, I'm still like, good to see you, thanks. And I would leave. But yeah, I'm not against malls. In fact, during our tour, one of our tours, Josh and I, we gave a talk in the Edmonton Mall, which is like the largest mall in North America. And people were like, on Twitter and email, like, you guys are hypocrites. I can't believe you're going to the mall to give a talk. And I'm like, dude, where do you want us to go? To like a monastery, like a monk's monastery? Like they're gonna put us to shame. Like we're not, we'd be preaching to the choir. Like where better to go than in the belly of the beast, So it was great. We had an awesome turnout, and yeah, it was a great event. But I'm not opposed to malls. I mean, I think we have way too many. I mean, the case in point is they're going to shut down a ton of malls over the next couple of years. I don't know if you guys have read that article or not, but yeah, it's definitely something that I avoid as much as I can. But sometimes, you can stay warm in Chicago for 2 blocks walking through like huge mall. Well, oh yeah, you had another question. What was it?
Well, you guys are influencing a lot of people with what you're doing. Who influenced you guys on this journey when you started?
My influences, it really depends on the people he mentioned first. So like Colin, who runs a great blog called Exile Lifestyle, and he has a great podcast as well called Let's Know Things, and the other people he mentioned as well. What I really liked about that when he was the people he was going through is when I first saw the first person I was introduced to was Colin Wright, and he was 24 years old, like this young cool entrepreneur, and I'm like, oh, that's who minimalism's for. And I'm like, I respect him and I appreciate what he's doing, but I don't aspire to be the peripatetic writer who just jaunts around the world in perpetuity. And so I'm like, this might not be for me. But then I stumbled farther down the rabbit hole, and I saw Leo Babauta, and he had 6 kids, right? He's a minimalist with condoms. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want to have 6 kids either, right? And I don't want to travel the world. Maybe there's like a spectrum of minimalism. And for me, it was really about like tweezing ingredients from each of those people's recipes and apply it to my own life. If you go beyond that, I mean, I think you can look back to the Stoics. So like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. And I heard one clap.
For Marcus Aurelius, yeah.
For a second, I thought that was the sound of one hand clapping.
That's good, man.
That's Buddhism, I think. It's like an old Zen koan. But anyway, yeah, so Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus was my favorite. The Discourses is a great read. I mean, some of the Stoic wisdom is a bit too Stoic for me. Yeah, but they are also, I mean, you can go farther down the rabbit hole. You can read about ascetics who believe they should live in pain and suffering perpetually because that will help them deal with the pain. That's not what minimalism is about for me. It's not about deprivation, but those are certainly some of my influences.
Yeah, I mean the Stoics, Thoreau, Josh he was a huge inspiration. All of you guys, really. I mean, that's why we do this. It's because it does add value. And if you were to tell me 6 years ago, like, oh, you're going to be on a stage in Pittsburgh in front of like 300 people, and you're going to get some crazy applause when you guys go out on stage. It literally gave me chills. That was so awesome. But anyway, like I never would have believed it. And the fact that I think this is an important message, and as long as people continue to get value out of it, we're going to continue to do it for sure.
Howdy.
Hello. My name is Gina, and actually I have two questions. The first one was, how was your breaking your coffee fast at 4121 Main?
So 4125, right?
4121.
4121 Main. Yeah. That was a great shop. We just went there today. Did we post that?
You did.
Okay. Nice. 4121 was a great shop. We found it on like Google, and so I broke it. What's today? Wednesday?
Today's today.
Did we record a podcast yesterday?
I don't think so.
Okay. I broke it on Tuesday, whenever that was, and it was awesome.
Did you get that like coffee buzz? Like,
I got the, oh my God, I am so awake. Now I tend to get up really early, so it was like 3 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. and I made that coffee, and I was just midday awake, charged.
Awesome. So my real question is, you couldn't answer it at 28, you said, but now what are your passions? Aside from this, I mean, or
Give her the deer in headlights.
what am I passionate about?
I have no idea. I was living paycheck to paycheck.
Living for stuff. No, I'm passionate about a lot of things. I love to snowboard. I love we live in Montana. It's hard not to find a bunch of passions. As long as you go outside, like you can't just hang out in your apartment all day and sulk. I love going up to Glacier, and I don't do a whole lot of camping, but I do love to camp. I really want to start fly fishing, but I have set that boundary up where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to take on any more hobbies because I already have mountain biking is another one during the summer. Like I love the mountain bike. But I have a mountain bike, I got a snowboard. I'm like, and it's already hard to keep up with all that. So I have not gone the fly fishing route yet because once you pick up that hobby, you're gonna have so much like tackle and gear. Yes, there's so much that goes with it. But no, I think that's what's cool about what I've really learned through this journey too, is like there isn't just one passion that one of us were born with. I wasn't born to be a snowboarder. Josh wasn't born to be a writer, but those are things that we both have interest in, and really cultivating those interests, like putting in the work. That's really how you create a passion. It's after you put the work in to do whatever that passion is. So I might wake up one day. I'm sure I will eventually. I was gonna say I'm gonna wake up one day at like 60 and I'm going to be like, oh man, my back hurts way too bad for me to go snowboarding anymore. Mm-hmm. But my partner, Mariah, her father is just turned 60 this year, and he will still beat me down the hill on skis. So I will use that as inspiration to not quit when I'm 60.
For me, it's definitely writing. I mean, I love words, and
I like words too.
There's so many of them. Dude, I got this book the other day. It's called a dictionary. You wouldn't believe it, man. It has all the words.
Oh my goodness.
No, I really do. I mean, just the act of composition. It's one of the. It can be maddening from time to time. Like I want to put my head through a wall, but there is 50% of the time where it is like absolute payoff. It's like what Ryan said. You have to drudge through that drudgery to get to the other side, to get to the real passion. I think too often we confuse excitement for passion. We get excited about an idea or whatever. We say, oh, I'm passionate about this. But then when it gets difficult, we say, you know what? I must not be passionate about this. Writing is hard. But yeah, of course it is. Anything worth doing is difficult. But that's why it's worth doing. It's worth working to get to the other side. You get through that slump, and that's where the real passion, the real payoff is.
Well, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions.
Hey guys,
Hello.
my name is Tori, and Josh, I just have to say we are kindred spirits. I wake up at about 3 a.m. usually. I am a passionate writer.
Nice.
And my question is very simple, but I'm suspecting the answer isn't. How do you remind yourself to be mindful? Like when you fall off the wagon and you just get distracted by those pacifiers, like you really want to be a minimalist, but sometimes it's just really hard to remember, hey, this is what's important in my life and not just what feels good.
What distractions are you facing?
I mean, the usual 22-year-old things. You've got
Sure.
friends, you've got, social media all over the place. Just anything that keeps me from either writing or spending time with people.
Yeah. So has anybody seen, we just started this animated series called Simples. Thank you. So it's this animated series like where we just took some essays that Ryan and I wrote, and I did a quick voiceover for them. And Elvin Dantes, he drew up this whole series. But the first episode of that is called Someday, and the sort of experiment in there is to make a sort of to-do list. Just take a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, write on one side everything that you want to do someday, or something you're eager to do. Another thing you could call it is, what are your priorities, right? And then on the other side of that piece of paper, write down everything that you've done in the last 24 hours. Those are your real priorities. And if that is browsing Facebook or going to the mall or whatever it may be, there's nothing inherently wrong with those things, but we don't all have the same resources here. We don't have the same money, we don't have the same backgrounds, we don't have the same education, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And we get to decide how we're going to divvy that up. And even outside of work, there's 16 hours a day or whatever it may be for you. The point is that we get to decide how we spend our time. And for so long, all of those things on my someday list stayed on that list. And eventually, it really had to do with just flipping those. I can put the other stuff off. I can put scrolling incessantly through Facebook on my someday list. And I can put going on our 8th tour in 7 years on my to-day list. And it has a lot more to do with the actions we're willing to take every day. Are my short-term actions in line with my long-term values?
Yeah. I would encourage you to just do some experimenting. Like Josh and I, we got rid of internet for a while. It's really, really awesome when you don't have internet because, A, you become more productive. B, you got to get out of the house. I mean, we run a blog, so figure that out. We had no internet and ran a blog. Yeah, I would just encourage you to maybe introduce some stuff like that in your life. Right now, Josh and I, we were, I don't think we published that podcast yet.
Comes out next Tuesday.
Spoiler alert. During the podcast we recorded on Tuesday, we were talking about distractions and social media specifically. And we deleted all of our social media apps. Now you might be asking, well, how were you guys on Instagram earlier today? Here's the secret. You find a friend with a phone, podcast Sean, and no, we've got Jess Williams who helps us out too, but they do have those on there and they'll post it for us, but I'll tell you, it makes me way more intentional with social media specifically, because first off, I don't scroll on Facebook, so that was never really a huge distraction for me, because as soon as I get on Facebook and I'll check all my notifications, I do try to stay up with those, just because I feel bad about ignoring people. But then I'll be done checking my notifications, and I'll be all right, I'm just gonna scroll for a little bit, and now I'm in a fight. So yeah, I would just don't do that all at once. And you know what? Let's say you do get rid of internet, for example, and after a month, it's you really feel deprived. There's something. It was obviously adding value. To bring it back in, Again, minimalism isn't about deprivation. Josh did that with his phone. He got rid of his phone for, it was 3 months, right?
Yeah, it was 2 months. And it was right after it was a few months after I got rid of home internet. So I lived without home internet for 5 years. And it was a very productive 5 years. And I can tell you, the first month that I did that, it was so stressful. But then when I got right before I got rid of TV, and then rid of home internet, and then I got rid of the phone for 2 months. And you learn about a special kind of lonely. But then I discovered this new thing that just came out. They're called books. Oh my God, you guys heard of these? They're amazing, and there's pages and words. I talked about I love words, right? Yeah. And so what I found is I was reading more, and the other cool thing is you learn a lot about your friends when you get rid of your phone. And I'm not telling people to, with Ryan, we didn't just delete all of our social media. We just took off our phone temporarily, because it's how can I retrain myself? The pendulum's over here, how can I swing it back here, and then figure out a comfortable middle by doing that? And so I think quite often setting up those boundaries, as Ryan said. You can go without something for a while and then focus on what's truly important for you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Howdy.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Barry.
Hey, Barry.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi, guys. First of all, thank you so much for making your first stop Pittsburgh. You really add a lot of value.
It was our pleasure. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming out.
You really add a lot of value, so take another shot.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about sentimental items.
Let's do it.
So 7 years ago, my mom's best friend from birth, my aunt, stitched me a beautiful large quilt in my favorite colors that contains pictures of me and my friends from high school, all of whom I no longer am connected with. This quilt is so nice that it was presented to me by my mother as being meant to lay on top of my bedspread to be just for show. During my college years, it laid out in my bedroom at home, unused and forgotten about, and since graduating and moving out of my parents' home, it has become another piece of baggage carried from apartment to apartment. The quilt no longer brings me joy and has been sitting in my closet folded up, out of sight, out of mind for years. My question is, what are my options to minimize this quilt without hurting anybody's feelings? Because the photos on it are so specific to me that it doesn't make sense to donate it to Goodwill because I don't see anybody else getting value from it.
I got to be honest with you. If I came across that in Goodwill, I would be like, this is awesome. Because people would be like, what? Who are these pictures on this? I'm like, I have no idea.
Well, I think we found your answer. You just have to give it to Ryan.
No, Mariah and I have enough
It's
quotes.
pink and green. Do you really want it?
No, thanks for asking that.
My
If I
short
needed a quote, I totally would, though.
my short answer to you is just let it go. And so you can't control how someone else is going to feel. You can try to mitigate that. You don't want to do anything mean. You certainly don't want to do anything egregious to anyone. But if it's something that is in your way, you have to understand that the people who care about you want to remove any barriers that you might have. And so you have to give yourself permission to let it go. And it's going to be difficult. Now, you're right. Maybe someone at Goodwill isn't going to want, because I would have had the same feeling as you, but apparently Ryan has quilting sensibilities.
And if there's at least one more person in the world who probably would feel that way, too.
But here's the other question for you. Is there something else you could do with it that would make it not a quilt?
Are you trying to talk her into, like, turning it into a hat or something?
A bunch of hats? We have a friend, Robin Devine. SheMakesHats.com. And, well, she makes hats. And well, no, I guess where I'm going with that is quite often we'll have people who have like these boxes and boxes of photographs their parents passed down to them, and you know, we always advocate doing something called a scanning party. But occasionally, what someone will do is they'll take someone else's photos and turn it into art somehow. And so the question is there a creative way for you to repurpose this? And I don't know, but there might be. And I think if you were to ask 3-5 of your friends, then you'll find 3 or 5 different creative ways to repurpose it.
Yeah, and really, and if I'm way off base, just tell me. But like, let's say you went home tonight and like that quote like spontaneously combusted, and thank God, like that's the only thing that burned in your closet. Like you'd probably be like, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. It doesn't need to catch fire for you to not worry about it.
True. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, we got these last 4, and then we'll try to do a lightning round after that.
Wait, last 5.
All right.
6.
All right.
Do I hear 7?
I tell you what, we'll
I'm just
do.
kidding. I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
You can line up. Let's do this.
No, I think he's just letting him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do these 4, and then anyone who has a lightning round question, you can ask a quick question. We'll give you a tweetable answer to it. Okay? So come on up. We'll give you a tweetable answer. Howdy. What's your name?
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Good,
How are you?
Hi, Marissa.
Nice to meet you, Marissa.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming to Pittsburgh.
Heck yeah.
So I guess the biggest question I have for you guys in an indirect manner, not directly related to monetary needs, I guess is you guys have seemed to found like a huge life purpose through minimalism. And is there any advice that you would have for everyone in the audience as to, finding that life purpose and that life path? Because you guys seem so fulfilled through what you do. So any advice that you would have for anyone in the audience to finding that?
Yeah, definitely. So a few things. One is get really clear on what your values are. So if you don't know what your values are, that's really the foundation upon which everything else is built. And I think for a long time, I paid lip service, and if you would have asked me what my values are, I would have given you a few words that didn't really mean much. They were sort of nebulous. And what I've realized is that I need to know exactly what my personal values are. Ryan and I did a podcast about this recently, episode 69. It's called Values. And if you go listen to it, it's basically, we talk about our core values, sort of foundational values, health, relationships, passion, growth, contribution, and then how do you build on top of that, all the way up to imaginary values. And I think that's the problem for most of us, is we think something's important, or we just want that ephemeral bit of pleasure. And now, if you look at these tech companies, they're not inherently evil, but they employ thousands of engineers to aggregate our eyeballs to either their ad, their product, or their service. And I mean, some of it's a bit insidious, and it's all quite pernicious. And the problem that we're running into is it's becoming harder and harder to fight that off. And so we need to be equipped with being able to get grounded back to what our values are, right? And so if you don't know what your values are, sit down, have an exercise, listen to that podcast episode. I think it'll point you in the right direction. But beyond that, I also want you to realize something. You weren't born to be an astronaut. You weren't born to be a yoga instructor. You weren't born to be a very talented director. Matt Diavella, ladies and gentlemen. If you like our documentary, he's the whole reason it exists. But Matt was not born to be a filmmaker. The key was finding something that aligned with his values, and then his beliefs and his interests, and putting in the work, cultivating that into a passion over a long period of time. And that's actually good news, because you weren't born to do something, and it doesn't need to be that all the stars align so that you can do that thing. No, there are dozens, maybe even hundreds of things that you can be passionate about. And the key is just picking one right now, making sure it aligns with those values, and then carrying it forward. And then if that one doesn't work out, you pick the next one, and you carry it forward. You got to be willing to put in the hard work, though.
That was a good answer. Yeah, I would just echo what he said.
Cool.
Ditto.
One book for you. Cal Newport wrote two books, actually. He wrote two books. One is called So Good They Can't Ignore You, and it's about that topic of cultivating your passion. And he wrote one recently called Deep Work, and it's about just really diving in, eschewing all of the distractions in your life, and really having focused work. It doesn't have to be as much as you think. You know, so some of the most focused people in the world focus on their craft 2 to 3 hours a day, and they accomplish amazing things over the course of a year or 2 years or 5 years.
Yeah, I think if I did add anything, I would just say, like, when the joy of doing that thing outweighs the pain and suffering that you have to go through to do that thing, like, that's when I look at it and be like, yeah, I do love this. It's like snowboarding. I fell on the first time I went this year, and I don't know if I cracked my ribs or not. I didn't get x-rayed, but like every time I breathed, it hurt, and I mean, it was miserable. And the second time I went, my ribs were still kind of messed up. It hurt a ton, and I'm like getting on that first ski lift, and it's like in Montana, lift tickets are like $30, but the lifts are super long and super slow, and it's super cold. And like we're going up. And I'm just like, why do I do this to myself every year? Like, my ribs are hurting. Like, I'm so cold right now. And then, like, we got off that lift, and I got to the top of the mountain. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why. Like, this is why I do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Hello.
My name's Deb. I have been following minimalism for about a couple years. Since 2012, I discovered the Becoming Minimalist blog by Joshua.
Cool.
Yeah, Joshua Becker, he's great.
Yeah,
He's
he's
great.
awesome.
So I discovered that. At that time, I was working as a journalist, talking about passion. I spent pretty much most of my lifetime either in photography or journalism. That didn't work out too well financially for me. So right, kind of going backtrack now and getting out of debt. So I've been listening to all of your podcasts. You guys have been traveling with me 40 minutes a day, twice a day, for the last 3 weeks.
That's
Honestly,
awesome.
I've just been really into you guys and really your values are very powerful and in line with the political podcast. Oh my God, amazing. Just really inspiring because I'm really...
That's not exactly the feedback I got across the board.
Well, I live in Trump Town.
Yeah.
And then I go to work in like Hillaryville. It's just two totally different things. But my question is, so right now I'm actually in the process of transition. I had a house, I lost that house, I had to downsize, and I'm now temporary housing and living with my mother and trying to get out of debt. I'm trying to figure out what stuff to keep for when I have an apartment. So we're doing me and my girls, got 20 girls of us, guys, whoever is doing that minimalism game right now. We're in the middle of that, almost the 15th day. But working on trying to figure out what are the best things to keep that I might not need right this moment, but that I might need in 6 months or 4 months or whenever it is I do decide to move out on my own. So just looking to see maybe if you could give me some advice on what might be good to keep for that.
First off, thank you for, and congratulations on working toward getting out of debt. I know it's so overpowering. You know, I had 6 figures worth of debt, $500,000 if you count my mortgage, and I just felt like trapped. I felt stuck. And so congratulations for working toward that. It took me a long time and a lot of just really scraping by. But I can tell you what I would do if I was in your situation. I can't tell you what to do, but I can certainly tell you what I would do. With all of that stuff, I would look at it and would say, what items, if I didn't have any of these items, which of these individual items would I repurchase? And go shopping amongst your own stuff and keep only the things that you would buy again. And then that way you're not trying to cram your old life into whatever your new space is. When you move into that new space, you'll be able to fit your new life, your new debt-free life, into that space.
Let me ask you, are you paying for storage right now?
No, I actually minimized all my stuff earlier in life.
Okay,
So.
cool.
Good.
Well, yeah, because like anyone out there who is facing this problem and is paying, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 a year in storage, like
It's nuts.
there's the leverage for that. I would see if it was, like Josh said, if it was me, and I did do this actually. When I left Ohio and we went out to Montana in the cabin, you know, in the middle of nowhere, I didn't think I was going to be out in Montana for this long. So I had like a little spot in my like grandma's garage that I kind of kept stuff in. And when I got back to Ohio, it was like 6, maybe 8 months after we had moved out to Montana, and I'm like, there's no way I'm coming back to Ohio. So there were some like really awesome things that I really, really loved. This like antique chair that I had. It was like the first large purchase that I had ever made when I was 18 years old. It was like $450. And I had like a nice-ish like washer and dryer. I had a nice bed frame and a bed. All the stuff that I thought like when I come back to Ohio, I'm definitely gonna like use all this stuff. And I had a garage sale, and I was so adamant about like getting that stuff out of my grandma's garage. I'm not gonna like, you know, let her keep burdening that storage space. And it's just an aside. There was a statistic we were talking about earlier today, where it's like 25% of the people who have a 2-car garage, they can park 1 car in there.
No, 0 cars.
Oh, I'm sorry, 0 cars. And then 33% can park 1 car in there.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't want to do that to my grandma. So I had a garage sale and sold actually I knew someone who needed a washer and dryer, so I sold it to him super cheap, like pennies on the dollar what I paid for him. And then antique chair. Like this was like the hardest thing I had to let go of, and it wasn't for any other reason than like the sentimental attachment I had to it. First big purchase. When I had it in my home, every time I, you know, would put that like as my centerpiece in my home, people would come over and they're like, "That is an awesome chair." I'm like, "Yeah, I know it is an awesome chair. Like, I picked this out specifically." a couple came by during the garage sale, and they offered me $45 for it, and I'm like, can you give me like 65? They're like, no, man, like, and I could just tell, like, they just, they weren't really having it, but they were really excited about it. They just didn't, have more than $45. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give it to you guys for $45. And they were so happy. Like, they just got the buy of a century. And he's like, I know exactly where this is gonna go. Like, I'm so excited. It's like, we've been looking for a chair for months. Yeah, like, I was really happy to give that to someone else who could use it. But I guess I'm just encouraging you, if there is stuff that you're holding on to because you feel like, oh, I'm gonna have to buy that again, be honest with yourself. Are you gonna have to buy it again? And then when you sell it, just think about, like, every single penny you get to put towards that debt. Mm-hmm. It's gonna get you closer to getting out of mom's house, which is your goal ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks so much for the question.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
We'll do one more regular round question before we move on to the tweetable questions with tweetable answers.
That's me, man.
Hey,
That's
man.
me.
Howdy. What's your name?
I'm Jeff.
Jeff.
Oh,
you're Jeff.
Yeah, I'm Jeff.
This is the guy buying all the drinks. That's great, man.
I can't remember you guys' names.
I'm Ryan.
You're Ryan. And
Joshua.
Joshua. I had a question for Josh about his story. I wanted to ask, man. I get it that your mom passed away, right? And that was really hard for you.
Yeah.
And I get it. So how to be a minimalist.
Say that 5 times fast, Jeff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm a little drunk. I'm sorry. But I mean, my dad had some stuff too.
Yeah.
And I hold on to his things, and I really do. I hold him very near and dear to my heart. He didn't have as much as your mother might have had, but he has some things.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to really find a happy spot in life right now. How did that help you grieve being a minimalist?
Yeah.
How did that help you grieve? How did it help you cope with your life? You know what I mean? I get it. I get rid of my stuff on a daily basis, and I have not many things. I accept the simple things in life. I don't ask for much. I don't ask for anything from anybody, and I have not much, but I need help grieving.
Sure.
And I'm always throwing away things because I'm like, you know what? I don't need this stuff. I don't need it, and if I get rid of it, I won't have as much, so I don't have as much to worry about. So it's like,
What kind of stuff did your dad leave behind?
Just little trinkets.
Yeah. Do you use some of it though?
Yeah, man, and cool. and I used a lot of life lessons too. And my dad was a really cool guy. I used a lot of life lessons. We camped a lot, and he was almost a minimalist to begin with. I guess that's a new word. It's hard for me to say because I don't know. I don't know. We camped a lot. We lived outside a lot. So
sure.
But we just didn't have a lot. But my question to you is how did it help you cope?
Yeah.
Like giving away your mom's stuff. You looked at those things, and these are things that your mom's seen in you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I have a daughter, and it's like I see things in her, and I keep little drawings that she's had since she was 2 years old.
Right.
She's 8. She's almost gonna be 7, actually. I'm sorry. Whatever.
I was gonna check that stat after this. That Jeff's a liar. His daughter's 7.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? I keep these things, and I hold on to them, and she's gonna be the person standing up here on stage, saying my dad kept this stuff since I was 2.
Right.
How do you cope with? I mean, how does that help you cope?
We have a lot of people coming to our events now who, I mean, it's been nice since the documentary came out. We have a lot of high school kids and college-age kids that come to our events. But then we there was actually one very brief scene in the documentary in San Diego. A 93-year-old woman was at the event, and she was talking about how she wanted to get rid of the stuff so her kids didn't have to, and grandkids and great-grandkids didn't have to deal with it. And that letting go was also freeing, not just for her, but for the other people in her life. It was proactive sort of letting go. And so for me, I'll tell you this. I don't think I could have as quickly lamented the idea of my mother's passing. I don't think I would have been able to actually deal with it if I wouldn't have dealt with her stuff. Because I know what my plan was. I really did call and get the U-Haul. I got the largest storage locker they had. I'm going to drive that big truck back up to Ohio, put it all in that big box just in case. Do you know why I was going to do that, though? It's so I didn't have to deal with it. And because I didn't have to deal with that, I didn't have to deal with Mom's death. I mean, she was gone, but her stuff wasn't. And so it took me letting go of the stuff, the excess stuff in particular, to let go of her life. She's no longer here. But then, of course, I remembered that the memories aren't in those things. So it was nice that I was able to take photos of many of her things. I still have a lot of her photos scanned. And if you use digital picture frames, you actually get to use the photos instead of putting them in a box in your basement. And I found for me that process allowed me to let go. And I don't think I could have without that.
I think the one thing I'll add is, this is Josh and I's recipe.
Yeah.
And we have different recipes.
We all did.
Yeah. So, our hopes is like, hey, there's a couple ingredients where people can kind of, tweeze out and create their own recipe for their life. And what I'll tell you is, like, I'm not against sentimental items. Like, I have a beer stein my grandmother gave me that I put, like, all my loose change in. And she turned 82 this year, and, like, her health is not well. It's not good. I have to like, it's kind of really gives me a lot of anxiety thinking about what I know is going to inevitably happen in the next few years. And I'll probably hold on to that stein. But, at the end of the day, it is useful. So the first thing I would say is, like, dude, if this stuff that your dad has, if it is useful in a certain way, then, throwing away a family heirloom is not going to bring you joy at all. I mean, or I should say, throwing away family heirloom doesn't guarantee that it's going to bring you joy. So if it's useful, then keep it, man. People all the time, like in the documentary, I don't know if you saw that, but people, they come up to us all the time. I mentioned where they're like, hey, man, I got this library that I love. I love the smell of my books, and I loan my books out to my friends, and they read them. We talk about them, and I can't be minimalist because of my library of books. And I'm like, keep your books. Sounds like you get a lot of value out of it. So that's what it comes down to. It's like, are you getting value out of it? If it's stressing you out, if there's some anxiety that is being caused by these trinkets, then there is a signal going off in your mind that's saying that something wants to change. That doesn't mean go home and throw everything out, but it certainly is a sign. So I would just ask those important questions too to kind of help you work through it, man.
For sure, man.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It was really nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jeff. Oh, we're huggers, man.
Huggers, dude. I'm gonna kneel down here, buddy. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man. You too, Jeff.
Well, for those of you at home, we'd love to hear what you have to say. So if you have a comment or tip for anyone that asked a question so far today, you can leave us a message, 406-219-7839, or you can send a voice memo from your phone to podcast@theminimalists.com. It's time for our
hashtag Ask the Minimalist lightning round.
Did you all bring your hashtags? Perfect. So
yes, I knew someone in line was going to be like,
thank you.
My name's Jim.
Hey, Jim.
The documentary, I watched it, and you guys have a segment with Dan Harris, and he talks a little bit about Buddhism and meditation.
Yeah.
Do you guys practice meditation or any of those principles in your own lives, or anything to keep you in the present?
So we need pithy answers, Ryan. 140
yes.
characters.
Next question.
You can't tweet that.
You can tweet yes. What are you talking about?
Yes, at Ryan Nicodemus.
Yes.
You put it in quotes.
They have to put the hashtag Ask the Minimalist in there too. I mean, I'm not going to be able to come up with a tweetable answer on the spot like that.
Sorry.
But no, it's no worries. I will come up with a couple sentence answer. Yes, I meditate every single day. Even if sometimes it's for a minute, which we were on Dan Harris's podcast, and he was like, "So you don't really follow any rules in life, do you?" And I'm like, I don't follow all the rules. No, like, meditation for most people is like this 10, 15 minute. I mean, even if it's 60 seconds, like I will just take a minute to breathe and like to really try and clear my head. And sometimes that minute will turn into 15 minutes, and that's great. On the plane right here, they had like some Headspace videos like on the entertainment thing on the airplane, and I was totally using that to meditate on the way here. So yes, like it absolutely helps me clear a lot of mental clutter. And there is a muscle memory that you get to really help impulses. Like I know that, and probably because I put all these boundaries in and instilled them into my life. But I think the meditation has certainly helped too. Like when I catch myself walking through the mall in Chicago, I'm sure I can't remember what, but I know I saw something. And I'm like, I'm just gonna go in there and check it out. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like just like, and I can catch those thoughts. So tweet that.
So on the airplane, we flew United over here, and I kept trying to get them to drag Ryan off the plane.
I thought like it came with your ticket. I kept asking him to.
I meditate, and I don't have a pithy answer for you. I'm sorry, but I find it's important because here we go. Here's a pithy thing for you.
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Here's a pithy thing for you. So, our material possessions are a physical manifestation of what's going on inside us.
Hashtag lightning round.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, man.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Sharon. So my question is, now that you're living your life by your design, essentially, and have escaped your kind of corporate world that you describe in your previous life, how do you manage your day-to-day? Is it via like a calendar on your phone, right? Do you set priorities by a weekly basis, things of that nature?
You go first. I'm going to try and think of something pithy.
My short-term actions must align with my long-term values every day.
You're such a cheater. No, it's good, man. I have 3 things that like I have to do every day. It's like exercise of some sort, walking around, going to the gym, snowboarding. I have to meditate for at least 60 seconds.
And pet the cat, right? You still own the cat. That's the third one. Clearly.
What's that?
You still own the cat, so it's clearly like son
right,
of the cat.
Right.
So.
No, and the other thing is like I really have to add as much value as possible to the people around me. So if I don't live up to that, then I feel miserable. And really, what Josh said is just a short answer to what I just said.
Thank you.
We're just saying it different. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just saying it different.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
This is so exciting.
Awesome. We're excited too. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming to Pittsburgh for your first part of the tour.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so once you've gotten rid of all of the stuff, the decluttering's gone, your schedule is a little bit lighter, how do you find motivation to go do those joys in life? I mean, I'm a college student. Sometimes I just need a nap. But at the same time, I want to go out and I want to, enjoy the little things in life, come to more shows, things of that nature.
Mm.
Tweet that.
I'm trying to think something pithy.
Usually I have like the night
I
before
would challenge
to
him
come
to
up
like
with all of these.
who could come up with a pithy answer first, but I know he'd win every time.
You want to riff? You can just riff, and I'll
no.
tie it up
I'm
with a
trying to
bow.
think of something like. I'm trying to think of a tweetable answer to say this. Like, it's okay to veg out, but you veg out too much, you become a vegetable. You know? That was actually tweetable. Did you write that down, Sean? No, we got to record it. We're good. Make it a haiku.
Pass.
At Joshua Fields Milbury. Hashtag Ask the Minimalist.
I'll get back to it, I promise.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Howdy.
I'm Chelsea.
Nice to meet you, Chelsea.
I'm from Toledo.
Oh, cool.
We drove all the way. From
Welcome.
Toledo.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't even get one IO in this crowd.
Oh, I'm sorry, IO.
That's because we're in, yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's all right.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous. This may not be a short answer. Sorry. Once you declutter all of your material things, and maybe you even declutter some relationships that aren't good for you, like friendships that are just toxic, what do you do, or what would you recommend to people who have relationships? I know this is the other half of minimalism once you get past all of that decluttering of things. What do you do, or what would you recommend to people who have toxic relationships in their life that they must keep, like parents, siblings, spouses, stuff like that? And they must keep them, but they don't want to spend too much time focused on that too much. You know, I don't know how to say
I've got the pithy answer.
Sorry.
I've got the pithy answer.
Mine's pithier.
Okay,
Josh is going to hate this. You can't change the people around you. But you can change the people around you.
Well played.
So get rid of my parents.
How about this? How about this? No. My short answer is victims become victimizers. And so the only my long answer is the only leverage you have against these people in your life is your time and your attention. And if you're being held hostage by a mentality that doesn't align with the person that you want to be, then it's okay to let go, at least for now.
Yeah, I will expound a little bit because don't get rid of your parents. No. I'm sure they're great people.
Oh, actually, this was a question for everyone else. I should just note that my family is awesome. So I don't have toxic relationships.
Oh, awesome.
Sorry.
Well, you tell me. How do you...
Well, I don't know. That's why it's a general question.
No, so I have family members who I do distance myself from. Like, I'm totally there for them. They call me up and they're like, hey, I need $50 for, whatever. Hey, I need you to fly home because mom's sick. I mean, I would totally be there. And, hands down, no questions asked. But I will spend not nearly as much time with them than when I used to. Because I used to feel obligated to do that. And I realized, I'm like, you know what? Josh is, he's like a brother to me. And, he's practically family. And, for me, it doesn't matter whose blood someone has in their veins. As long as they're investing in me, I invest in them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got 3 more lightning rounds here.
What's up, guys? Thanks for
up?
coming. I saw your documentary, and I went crazy and sold and threw away things, and my family got scared. And
Isn't that the weird thing? As soon as you start getting rid of stuff, it's like, oh shit, he's gonna kill himself.
Yeah. They were like, what are you going to eat on or sit on or anything? Anyways, my question is basically just about digital clutter.
Yeah.
And 2 examples would be in this kind of new era of streaming. Prior to 5 years ago, I have, 100 gigabytes of music, albums, and now also pictures. So I think all right, Spotify, right? Now I just listen to it all the time, but I got all this other music that I have, and Spotify going to exist forever? What if the internet shuts down? I can't listen to it. And then pictures, I'm like, well, do I just keep dumping these pictures onto my computer, or do I just upload it onto Instagram forever? And then I have it there. And I always fight. I'm like, man, my brain is caught between keeping digital stuff or keeping it over here. And I don't know, thoughts on digital clutter. There we go.
I would say, first, pass. No, I'm kidding. Trying to think how to say this pithy. Well, I won't, because I think it's going to take longer for me to think of a pithy answer than just give the long answer. You got to deal with the horde of clutter, or digital clutter you have right now. Simple is not easy, unfortunately, and we confuse simple with easy a lot. So you've got to set the time aside and handle the horde that you have right now of digital clutter, and then you have to curate really, really well moving forward. Well, you don't have to do anything. That's what I do. That's what I had to go through. And now when I do that picture dump, I delete as many of those pictures as I can before I dump them. Because you take 4 pictures of one thing. You're like, why? I only need the best picture. I took 4 pictures so I could choose the best picture. I'm not going to put all 4 of those on my computer.
Yeah. You'll never reach the end of the internet, so stop trying.
It could happen.
Yeah, it could.
Hey, you didn't have internet for months, man.
Years.
And then when that happens, records will make another comeback. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, you, man. Appreciate the question.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hello.
Okay, my question is about trying to get rid of things that people have given you because they think it's a great gift. So every Christmas, birthday, I get wonderful sweaters from my mom and record player that I'll probably never use. And I am going through and decluttering, and I'm like, wow, I get a lot of gifts that people spend a lot of money on, and I don't want this stuff. And then I have all this other stuff that my parents just give me because they think it's I'm going to need it someday, and it's something they got on sale, and, oh, you should have this. I'm like, what am I doing with all this stuff? How do I stop it from coming in and be, respectful? Because my parents do not understand what I'm doing right now. So, at all, especially my dad. So, I'm like, he's like, I don't understand why you're getting rid of all your stuff. I'm like, I don't need it, So, I'm just like, I need help.
My short answer for you is the only person's permission you need is your own. And I think once you realize that, it's really freeing. But the best, here's another pithy thing for you. The best way to deal with clutter is before it happens. And I think the same is also true with gifts. It's April right now. Now's the time to start talking about Christmas gifts. And so don't wait until it's December 24th to be like, you know what? I really don't want all that stuff that you're getting me. Too late. It's already here. And now you're going to make them feel bad. And then here's the other thing. Instead of saying no, figure out what you can say yes to. Don't say no, don't get me a gift. Say yes. Give me an experience. Give me a consumable, bag of coffee, bottle of wine, something that I can use, something that I'll actually enjoy. So don't say no. Say yes to the right thing.
I should say, when someone gives you a gift, they want to make you happy. If your life would be happier without that gift, I assure you they would want you to get rid of it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We got one more here.
All right.
It's a lot of pressure.
Better be a good question.
Oh. So I am an MIT, so minimalist in training.
Nice. What's your name?
Erica.
Hi, Erica.
I'm also a researcher, so along with that, I've kind of gotten to where I am now. I'm an expert in learning from other people's mistakes. So I was the youngest of 2 siblings and the youngest of all my friends and family friends. So I just kind of watch everybody else blow it, and then I figure out how to not blow it based upon what they did. So I guess kind of to wrap it up, any minimalist regrets that you guys have, things that you tried that didn't turn out the way you thought, and maybe some things that you would do differently to get you to where you are now.
Well, my pithy answer,
YOLO.
yeah, yes, actually. No, my pithy answer would be, if I died with no regrets, I'd really regret that.
Yes. And my pithy answer has something to do with here we go. The hamster's running around still. He's still there. I've been up since 4 a.m., which is 2 a.m. Montana time. All right. All of my successes are composed of fragments of failures.
Okay, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna try and give you something real though. Really, what Josh and I are saying is it's okay to fail, but you're a proactive person, and I totally appreciate that. I try to be as proactive as much as possible. Also, the only regret I can think of, it wasn't even actually. I don't even know if that was a regret, but. Josh got rid of his cell phone, and after 2 months, he's like, "Shoot, I need a phone." People are gonna have to call me. But even that was an experiment, and it was poised to fail or not, and it ended up, being a failure. But man, I'm really looking for something a really awesome life lesson. Don't do this if you're going down this minimalism path.
I can tell you my biggest regret in life is, so I told that story earlier, but when my mother found out she had stage 4 lung cancer, I spent 7 different weeks with her that year. She was down in Florida. Literally, she moved down there, and a few months after she did, she found out she was dying. And I spent 7 weeks, and in the corporate world, I got so much shit from my boss and my boss's boss for spending that much time off work. 7 weeks over the course of 1 year. If I could do that over again, I would have quit my job the day she called me, and I would have spent the rest of that year with her. I occasionally still have nightmares about it. Thanks. We'll end it on a bright note.
Really brought the mood down, Millie.
Well, we will be out there afterward. We do give out hugs. It's not just Jeff that gets one. Whoever wants to grab one, they are free and transferable. So pick one up, pass it on. We've got some books out there as well. If you want to grab one, we'll sign it and all that fun stuff. If you didn't bring your wallet, don't have enough money with you, we'll buy one for you. So you're welcome to grab one on your way out, as long as there's enough.
Yeah, the catch is after you get the book and you read it, you minimize it afterwards. Right. Pass it on to someone, donate it to the library. Yeah,
for sure. Well, thanks for being here tonight, Pittsburgh. Thank you. If you leave here tonight with just one message, we hope it's this: love people and use things, because the opposite never works. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you.
Every little thing you think that you need, every little thing you think that you need, every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. Every little thing that you gotta have, every little thing that you gotta have, you gotta reach for, and you gotta grab. Oh, I bet that you'll be fine without it. So tear your eyes away, or tear your